Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a Florida style beef brisket. So I have a 7.5 pound Angus beef USDA choice. I got it from Sam's Club. It's $22.74 as you can see on the label. It is a smaller brisket. It appeared to be a flat, but it is a whole brisket surprisingly. So we'll see how this goes. This one had it had a nice fat cap on it. It looked to be trimmed very well as well. So after pulling it out of the package, what we're going to go ahead and do is pat this thing down and get it dry so we can go ahead and apply our rub to it and our seasonings. But before we do that, we got to get it trimmed up. So first, let's go ahead and get this thing patted down on both sides. So I'm just inspecting the meat, trying to remove some excess fat. So here's some silver skin. Surprisingly, there wasn't much excess fat on this, and because this is a lean piece of meat, we're gonna try to keep the majority of this fat on here. If you remove too much fat, you can risk overcooking and burning your meat, and we don't wanna go ahead and do that. So there's a piece of hard fat right here that I just wanna go ahead and remove. Hard fat is very hard to render down. It actually doesn't render down, so we'll go ahead and remove that. And I think we're just going to go ahead and just keep everything on this fat side. It had a good layer of fat. So we'll go ahead and flip it over. And there's a lot of excess fat on this side. If you look in the top right corner, that whole top right corner is fat. I didn't capture in this video, but I went ahead and removed that entire piece of fat. So just go ahead and trim the fat off this side. So it's important to trim the fat because we need to make sure that our rub adheres and we can get some flavor penetrated through the entire brisket. So right now I'm just using some mustard as binder, and we'll go ahead and get this rubbed on evenly. You could use anything you want as a binder. You don't even have to use a binder if you don't want. I know some people use mayonnaise. Some people use olive oil, Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce. You know, it's totally personal preference, so you can do whatever you like. I just like to use regular yellow mustard because I have that on hand and I actually like it. I really don't taste it too much. I actually don't taste it at all. So it doesn't really bother me. But it does help to get the rub stuck on there. So as you can see, I don't have any gloves on. I ran out of gloves, so I'm doing everything with my hand. So the first layer we're gonna add is some kosher salt. It's gonna add a generous coat across the top of this. Gonna make sure we get it nice and covered. After we add our kosher salt, we're gonna add some black pepper. Now, typically I only do salt and black pepper, and I will add more than what you see here, but I'm going to add some rub. I like my beef with salt and pepper. I'm like one of those guys, you know, I like to taste the meat. I don't like to taste any other flavors that go along with it, but today I'm going to try something a little different and add some rub to it. So I'm adding some black pepper over here. Make sure you get the sides. The sides are really fatty, so it's okay if you miss it over here, but as you can see, there's some meat right here. We want to make sure we can dab some of that on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab some onion powder or garlic powder, and I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle this over the top, get it nice and coated. So the key to seasoning your meat is you want to make sure as you can see, I have my rub right here. You want to make sure you cover every inch of the meat. You don't want to leave anything exposed. You want to make sure you get some seasoning and rub on the entire product. It'll give better flavor, and it'll also make it look better in the end too. So it's just this right here, what I'm using, just some barbecue rub. As you can see, I forgot to wash my hands, so all of that rub just got stuck to my hand. So I'll just go ahead and add another coat. And you want to pat it down. You don't want to rub this in. If you rub this in, pretty much, what you just saw in my hand with it getting all stuck on your hand will happen. So you want to make sure you do both sides. So I have both sides done, and I'm just transferring this into a baking sheet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit overnight inside the refrigerator. Here's just some excess seasoning that I'm sprinkling over the top. What you can do, and this is what I would prefer to do, but I ran out of clear wrap. You take some clear wrap and you just wrap this bad boy up, pop it in the fridge same way. But honestly, you're going to get the same results by doing this as well, so it doesn't really matter. You want to make sure that your seasoning gets deep down into the meat, and this is what we're going to be doing. You'll achieve maximum results with this. If you can't let this sit overnight, at least let this sit for at least 2 hours in the fridge. All right, so this is the next day, about to pop it on the smoker, and as you can see, we got some of that juice to seep out of the meat from the seasoning overnight. Right here, I'm just getting my smoker ready. I'm using a Camp Chef hickory pellets, some Pit Boss all natural hardwood pellets. I'm going to turn my smoker on, and I'm going to set it to the high smoke at 225 degrees. And I'm going to smoke my brisket for 2 hours on this setting. And after 2 hours of smoking it on this setting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the high smoke 225 and drop it down to 200 for at least 6 hours. I want to do this low and slow, and I'm trying not to wrap this. So I have my hopper full of pellets. Alrighty, so our temp is set. Everything is looking good. As you can see, we're at 230 degrees Fahrenheit. My smoker varies a little bit. I have the meat on here, and it's been going for about 2 hours. So now I'm just going to flip it back down to 200 and let this thing go for another 4 to 5 hours. So here we are 5 hours later, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, there's some fat that got stuck on it. I should have patted it down, but I didn't do it. So I'm just checking the temperature of the meat. At this point, this would be a good candidate to be wrapped, but I'm gonna let it keep going. So this is at the 8-hour mark. As you can see, it's developing a little bit more color, and it's a little stubborn, and it's barely moving up in temperature. Now there are some spots that are, pretty hot, like as you'll see right now, or in just a second. You'll see that on that left side, it's going to be at around 192 degrees. So right there, that's where it's the hottest. I'm not sure why it was so hot over there. But yeah, so we're going to keep letting it go. We want to add some more color to this. Here we are. This is another 2 hours later, and we're going to probe it again. We're getting a little bit close. We're getting some more darkness on the meat. At this point, I have increased my temperature to 225 degrees. It is getting a little late in the day, and I want to make sure I can get this done before, before the day ends, or the night ends, I should say, because I still have to let this rest for 2 hours overnight, and I don't want it to get too late. So as you can see, it's a little tender at this point. It's not too tender, but the thermometer is going in pretty easily. So I'm just checking temperature all around. All right, so after 12 and a half hours, this is what we have. This is the final product. We got the internal to around 200 degrees. Now we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing in aluminum foil, and we are going to let this sit in a cooler for at least 2 hours. Right now, the time is about 10 o'clock, so that's why I was kind of in a rush to cook this thing, and I had to increase the temp. It was taking a little longer than normal. So we got this thing wrapped up. I'm just gonna add another layer of aluminum foil to the top of this, so that way I could seal in all of the heat. After this is wrapped up, we'll drop it in the cooler, and at this point it's still very hot to the touch, so you want to be careful when handling this. So here it is. I have it popped in the cooler. We'll go ahead and close that and leave it alone. Alright, so I just pulled this thing out of the cooler about an hour and a half later, and I almost burnt my hands from how hot it was. So here we go. We're just removing it from the aluminum foil, and we'll go ahead and get this bad boy sliced up. Alrighty, so here we go. All sliced up. As you can see, it's super juicy. I didn't get the smoke ring that I wanted. Should have cooked it a little bit lower temperature. Probably would have achieved that, but there we go. If you liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe for more future videos. Thank you.